Hey, loyal followers. Thank you for watching and listening. We're excited that the analytics show our audience is growing. Since we know you're out there, we'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or comment on a specific episode, please go to awaketheiron.com. You can also text or call us and leave a message at 601-654-IRON. To engage with you even more, we are creating live Q&A episodes on YouTube where you can ask questions or make comments in the live chat. If you're feeling frisky, you can join the show and ask out loud on camera, or hide your camera if you don't want to be seen. This is going to be fun. Subscribe to our email list so we can send you details on how to participate in upcoming live shows. Go to awaketheiron.com and enter your email in the subscribe box. Come on, it's literally right on the front page. You should go to youtube.com/@awaketheiron and subscribe there as well. Let's be honest, you're already there watching cat videos, so you might as well subscribe for our live stream notification. We look forward to seeing you soon, and as always, remember to keep your powder dry. We'll see ya.
So here's just a random bill. We've got down here, it's an unconditional order to pay. It says billing date. What is bill a shortening for? It's a shortening for bill of exchange. What is a bill of exchange? It's a negotiable instrument. What is a Federal Reserve note? It's also a negotiable instrument. You're starting to see where we're going with this?
All right, welcome back to another segment of Awake the Iron. I'm your host, Kason Pratt, and with me as usual is CJ the Lion of Los Sandyville. And with us today, our guest is Brandon Joe Williams. And Brandon, first of all, I think you have a really cool name. It sounds like a really cool country star or maybe an assassin. I can't decide which one.
Yeah, luckily I'm both, so it works out.
Right, so... And I forgot to tell you before, I've seen some of your stuff. We'll try to keep it kind of family friendly, but
yes, I got the email on that.
Okay, so
I'm tracking.
If you slip up, it's fine. It's just a little more editing on my end is all.
No, I was just on a few shows, really big shows that are coming out very soon that were similar. So I'm starting to get more of these kinds of shows where it's,
okay. It doesn't bother me, whatever, but whatever we want to post on, we want to be able to get it on as many things as possible because I think this information is awesome.
Thank you.
And what particularly are we going to be talking about? We'll get into that in just a second, but just so you know, Brandon, this I don't even know if I call it a topic because there's it's like a spider web. But this I'll call it a rabbit hole. This rabbit hole is one that it intimidates me a little bit because because it is like massive, and CJ has firsthand experience with some of these topics. So I'm open between my newbie, 101 level questions that hopefully, maybe some of our viewers are, and some of our viewers and listeners might be a little higher level than a 101, which I think if anybody follows you, they're beyond the 101 level. Actually, I think on your website it even says, don't even contact me until you've done my contract killer course, which is really cool. I'll be able to tell people we had someone on our show who's a contract killer. And they're like, what? And they explain. But so we'll get into that. But anyway, where do we begin on this? Seriously, like how would you introduce this kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, I have a whole song and dance pony show and the whole thing if you want to get into it. Start at the beginning and kind of move through a lot of the definitions, move through a lot of the things and what it means in your life, and then kind of it's like a 45-minute presentation. If you want to, we can go in that direction or whatever you want. If a lot of your people on your show, you think most of them have not really been exposed to a lot of this information thoroughly, it's probably the best thing for me to just run through the presentation. But it's up to you guys, whatever you want to do.
Well, yeah. What do you think, CJ? I'm thinking if we pretend like a lot of people have at least dipped their toe in it a little, it could be maybe a little more interesting. And if someone's like, "Wow, this is way over my head," then they can go, look at some of your introductory stuff or whatever. CJ, what do you think?
Yeah, I would say some of our listeners probably know some of it.
That's very specific. I'm glad you really nailed down. Okay, usually when I start talking about stuff, we usually wind up doing the presentation anyways, because people think that they've heard a few of these words and they think that means that they know what's going on. But
yeah, let's just do that, and then
that's fine
as long as you're okay with being interrupted. And
you can interrupt me. We can run through questions. We can run through whatever. But it's probably the best.
Sounds good.
It's going to be another year or two before I'm not doing this all the time. So I'll do a screen share and I'll just run through it and we'll see what's up. Okay, Cason's going to have fun. CJ is kind of have some experience with this, but Cason's going to be like, what the F?
Hit me with it. I'm ready.
All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
So I usually start off with just explaining kind of how a lot of this stuff works. It's very simple. So you have the United States Code. It's divided by titles. Title 1, 2, 3, 4, all the good stuff. Each title has a certain subject, copyrights, commerce and trade, Coast Guard, banks, banking, all the good stuff, right? So the first place I start is 28 USC section 3002. The way you read this first number is the title. This is the body of law that we're looking at, the United States Code. This is just a section symbol. It's like a circle with a little half S at the top and a half S at the bottom, which is like a legal symbol. And then it's section 3002, definitions. Go down to subsection 15, and we're going to read section 15, definition A. United States means a federal corporation, okay? And if you look up another word that's very, very important for all of this from 26 United States Code 7701, the most important definition of almost any word in all of law and literally almost everything you'll ever do in your entire life within the confines of everything that we currently find ourselves in is the definition of the word person. The term person shall be construed to mean and include an individual, a trust, estate, partnership, association, company, or corporation. So legally, United States is a federal corporation. And because it is a federal corporation, it is a person in the law. So when you see United States versus John Doe lawsuits, the way that the law interprets that is it's a person suing a person, which is complicated because in due process, you're supposed to be confronted by your accuser. You can't possibly be confronted with the person named United States, so due process becomes impossible. And that's the world that we live in right now. Right now, we're going to find out where is that person called the United States located. We're going to go into a different body of law called the Uniform Commercial Code. This is the section symbol we saw earlier. This is in the United States Code, it goes by titles. In the Uniform Commercial Code, it goes by articles. Same thing, just sections of whatever larger code, just sections of it. So Article 9, Section 307. We're going to go down to subsection H, and we're going to find out where is that person located. The person called United States is located in the District of Columbia. Now, the most logical question at this point is where in the District of Columbia and how large and what shape is this person called United States? I don't know. I've never seen any additional information that explains the exact coordinates or size or shape of this person called United States. All we know is it's located somewhere in the District of Columbia. It could be the southeast corner. It could be a mile. It could be a circular mile. It could be a square mile. It could be shaped more irregular. It could be an octagon. We have no idea. I have no idea. I've never found anything, and I've never seen anybody else find anything that further describes the shape or territorial location of where the person called United States is located inside of the District of Columbia. Okay?
Okay, so Brandon, that was awesome right there. That you'd probably do a whole show in just that part. But is this United States, that's the corporation, the same as the United States from 1776?
No.
Okay.
So the United States from 1776, the United States of America is 50 independent, unincorporated nation states. That would be, the United States of America. The problem is that, and I'll show you more about how this works as we go, State of California, County of Los Angeles, and City of Los Angeles are all corporations, and they're all listed on Dun and Bradstreet. They're all persons, and all of those persons are all located in the District of Columbia. And I'll explain to you as we go farther in this presentation how exactly in the legal world, what is the actual mechanics that move you from the unincorporated landmass called the California Republic to the incorporated unknown landmass that's located inside the District of Columbia called State of California. There is actually a mechanical process that you're doing all the time that you don't realize that you're doing it. It's called naturalization. And most people think they know what that means, but no one has any clue what that means. And I'll show you what that means.
Okay.
Just to interject for a second. I remember as a kid seeing signs like when you go into a city like Cincinnati, Incorporated 17, whatever, or Corp Limit. And I always thought that was interesting. Like, oh, Corp, like incorporated, like a corporation. That's interesting. I'm like 8 years old.
Yeah, so any incorporated elements that come from, I think it's 4 USC 72. Yeah. Boy, I'm good. So if I'll show you kind of how this works without getting too far into it. Let me see.
Yep. Let me interrupt real quick and just remind any listeners who don't realize that we do have the video. Make sure you swing over to our website, awaketheiron.com. And you can watch the video here as Brandon's taking us through some visuals that prove what he's saying.
Yeah, and I can shift because I'm really good at shifting because I do a lot of all audio shows with all this stuff. So I can also shift and try to read everything. That way the audio listeners can get most of it. But yeah, the video is going to be the better choice because you'll be able to see everything visually, right?
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
So for USC 72, it says here, all offices attached to the seat of government shall be exercised in the District of Columbia and not elsewhere except as otherwise expressly provided by law. So the big falsity is that State of California is located in California. It's not. It's actually located in the District of Columbia, and it's exercised in the District of Columbia. And everyone who lives here in California on paper, like literally 99 or 98% of every single person inside of every single state, because they don't know how all this works, they actually legally live in the District of Columbia. Basically, the way that North America is established is 99% of everyone lives in the District of Columbia, And there's a very, very, very small 1% of individuals that live outside of the District of Columbia in one of the 50 unincorporated nation states. And it all works through naturalization. And I'll show you guys how that works. It's actually very simple, in my opinion. So if we go to 42 USC 9102, and we're going to scroll down to subsection 18, this is going to prove also a lot of the stuff that I've already said. So what is a United States citizen, right? Now, the first question that people who are really highly intelligent are going to ask is, well, wait a second, Brandon, if a person is an estate, a trust, an individual, a partnership, a company, or a corporation, then couldn't a corporation be a United States citizen? Very intelligent question. The answer is yes. You can see here in subsection C, any corporation, partnership, association, or other entity organized or existing under the laws of the United States is legally considered a United States citizen. Okay? But that's not the part we're going to talk about right now, because the more interesting part for what we're talking about right now is subsection A. So United States citizen means any individual who is a citizen of the United States by law, birth, or naturalization. Law means by contract. You can contractually operate under the laws of the United States. Birth means born in the United States, but it's very easy to defend because all you have to do is just say, let's say you were born in the District of Columbia. How can anyone prove that just because you were born in the District of Columbia, you were born in the United States? They would need to prove that the United States is located within the confines of the exact location of which your body was born at that exact hospital, which I don't think anyone can do. So the thing is that birth would never work for something like this. And then we have naturalization, which is where all the magic happens. Naturalization is in 8 USC 1101 subsection A23. Go down here. And this is where everything becomes very, very, very unbelievable, very crazy, very wild. And people, this is, for most people, including myself, it took me like 2 months to process this. I couldn't even believe this was true, right? The term naturalization means the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person. Now, keep in mind, Title 8 has a slightly different definition of person, but it's pretty much the same thing. It means an individual or an organization after birth by any means whatsoever. So every single person in America, in North America, lives in the District of Columbia, aka United States, because they say they live in the United States. I swear to God. I know that's the craziest thing you've ever heard in your entire life. That is naturalization. If you say you live in the corporation called State of California, you just naturalized into State of California, which is located in the District of Columbia. If you say that you live in United States or that you are a United States citizen, you now live in the United States. So all these, quote, illegal aliens that you see coming over the border, the definition of the term illegal alien is someone who has not conferred the nationality of the state called United States upon a person, which gets even more complicated because you can actually confer nationality of a state upon a trust, individual, estate, partnership, company, corporation. That gets more complicated. Then the more complicated thing is when you're born and you get a social security number and a birth certificate, there is a corporation opened of your name in all capital letters. So you're actually two different persons. So when you naturalize, are you naturalizing what we call the ens legis, which is the technical term for what that corporation is, which I can cover in a moment? Or are you naturalizing the natural person, which is you as a man or woman, a non-incorporated entity? No one knows. No one ever specifies the difference. There's two persons at play.
Yeah, okay. Now, this is crazy because it's like the opposite of what we think. Because naturalization sounds natural. Like, I'm just naturally here, or I naturally become whatever, right? But
a lot of people think it's like you're natural. In a location for 7 years or whatever, but that has nothing to do with it. And I'm going to cover each of the individual definitions inside of the term naturalization, because most of them do not mean what you think they mean. So this rabbit hole gets even more exciting. Like the definition of the word state. Just wait until we look at that one. That's going to really rip you open. So a lot of people use the term straw man. I don't like that term at all. And the reason why is because if you look up straw man on Cornell, you'll see that straw man is a third party that holds property in intermission for the sole purpose of transferring it to another. It's basically the term straw man and the term escrow are very, very similar. Straw man does not describe the corporation that was created about 2 weeks after you were born. This definition does not describe what that thing is or how it operates. Could the public corporation, the corporation that was created when you were 2 weeks after you were born, be used as a straw man? I suppose, but that does not even remotely categorize or clarify the entire usage, right? And what's really funny too is if you take the definition of the term straw man and you mix it with, or you compare it to the definition of attorn, like attorney. A turn means to recognize or bring about a transfer, especially of property, or to transfer something to another, or to transfer homage and service from one lord to another, right? So straw man and a turn actually have very similar meanings. Now, neither of those terms are good for describing the corporation that was created 2 weeks after you were born. The two terms that I think are much better terms, term number one is public corporation, which comes straight out of Black's Law Dictionary. It's very clear. There's nothing hidden here. Everything's on the table. All the cards are on the table. A public corporation is one created by the state for political purposes and to act as an agency in the administration of civil government. This is why that corporation was created 2 weeks after you were born. It was created by the state for political purposes and to act as an agency in the administration of civil government. And the civil government that we have in today's world is basically just a commercial government. So you can almost change some of the words around at the end of this. You could say a public corporation is one created by the state for political purposes and to act as an agency in the administration of commerce would be even more clearly how that actual corporation actually functions, okay? Now, another term that's a really good term to use for, in my opinion, for this particular public corporation or corporation that was created 2 weeks after you were born, it's the ens legis. And the dictionary definition of ens legis is a creature of the law, an artificial being as contrasted with a natural person, applied to corporations considered as deriving their existence entirely from the law.
Now, how do we know that a corporation was created 2 weeks after we were born?
Because when they processed your birth certificate, if you get a copy of your certificate of live birth, you'll see on there date received by local health officer. That is the birthday of the ens legis. Now, if you don't have a birth certificate or you never had a birth certificate that was processed, you don't have an ens legis, but you can always open one. It's very easy to open one.
And is that, like, just to play devil's advocate, like, how do we know that? Like, does it say somewhere, oh, after we process your birth certificate, now you're you're pretending to be a corporation or whatever?
No, it's way, I mean, like, for example, when you go to a court and the reason why the Constitution doesn't apply is because they're not referring to a natural person. They're referring to a corporation. So it's more circumstantial than it is direct. They don't really want people knowing about all of this necessarily, obviously, right? So, and then as you dive down the Social Security rabbit hole, especially if you look at old Social Security cards from like the 30s, shortly after the Social Security Act was passed in 1935, the Social Security number is actually an account number. And what's funny is you can actually swap out that account number for EIN numbers. And you can actually function without a Social Security number. All you need is an EIN or a TIN. So that's also proof that this particular corporation is just a corporation, because social security number and EIN are you can swap them out for one another and things will still function. You can still get things done and you can still process documents and all sorts of good stuff. So it's a lot of circumstantial evidence.
Yeah, Brandon, real quick, some of the things that you've said that I've personally searched myself, corporation in the United States, the ens legis, I didn't know that term, but that basic concept, social security number and its function, birth certificate. You go Google some of these and you're instantly nailed with conspiracy theories and this isn't really legal and all this stuff. What do and you're kind of, you're showing us, right on right in the law dictionaries and on the law school forums and all this stuff. So is that, that's usually a red flag that something's being suppressed or something like that, I think.
Yeah, if anybody wants to verify these, I don't, in my free course that I have, I actually show you all these straight out of the dictionary. It just takes forever, and I don't do it on shows because it's going to slow the show down to a crawl. But if you go on my state national theory page, or even if you just type it into Google and you scroll down just a little bit, I have the first 6 editions of Black's Law Dictionary available for download. But you can just type in Black's Law Dictionary PDF download into Google and you'll find a lot of stuff. So it's not that hard to get your hands on these. If you want to get print copies of these, I spent $300 or $400 on my 4th edition that I bought, the hard copy, but you don't need that. You can just download PDFs. They're available all over the internet, all the different versions. You can download them for yourself and you can look up all sorts of things. You just thumb through that thing and it'll rip your mind in half. It'll rip the skull right off your body. Every time you take a shit, I apologize. Every time you defecate, you could just open up the dictionary on your phone, scroll down, and just like flip your thumb and stop the thing and just read a couple of the things that come up on whatever page that you just happen to roll the dice for, and it's probably going to change your life, literally.
It's kind of like word of the day toilet paper, but better.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So we have 2 different persons for each human or each man or woman. You have the natural person, which even that term actually does have some definitions where they say could possibly include artificial persons. So even when you use the term natural person, we want to make sure that you add a little caveat that states that, this term only includes men and women and does not include artificial persons. Now, at that point, it's pretty safe to use. So you have the natural person, and then you have the ens legis or public corporation, and then you have other types of persons as well, which is your trusts, your estates, your partnerships, your associations, all the good stuff, right? So now if we reread this, the term naturalization means the conferring of nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. That's the part that always gets people railed up. Well, what about this way? By any means whatsoever. Well, what about this way? By any means whatsoever. It's the same answer. Anything you ask me, my answer is going to be by any means whatsoever, which is really funny, right? So the part of this that gets really, really fascinating, though, is when you look up the definition of the term state. This is when things get really exciting, okay? So the definition of state and the definition of nation and the definition of body politic and the definition of society, these words kind of all mean the same. Like state in its largest sense, a state is a body politic or society of men. And then you look up body politic, state or nation or public association. It starts to get kind of circular, right? So I was like, what in the does this mean? It doesn't, and then you look in the United States Code under state, and that just makes you want to put your head in a meat grinder. You can't get anywhere with that. So I'm like looking around trying to figure out, what does this mean, right? So I finally found it, and it's right here, and it's the definition of the term nation. And you can plug this definition in for the term body politic, the term state, the term society. Pretty much it's all the same thing, right? So the definition of the word state or nation is an independent body politic, a society of men united together for the purpose of promoting their mutual safety and advantage by the joint efforts of their combined strength. But every combination of men who govern themselves independently of all others will not be considered a nation. A body of pirates, for example, who govern themselves are not a nation. To constitute a nation, another ingredient is required. The body thus formed must respect other nations in general and each of their members in particular. Such a society has her affairs and her interests. She deliberates and takes resolutions in common, thus becoming a moral person who possesses an understanding and will peculiar to herself and is susceptible of obligations and rights. And it might sound very complicated, but it's very simple. It's the same way that human cells congregate into a human body. Billions of cells all operating as one unit, right? And essentially in law, what makes that unit alive and gives that unit rights is internal tranquility and external tranquility and a moral operation, and understanding, right? So let's if you were to translate this to a human body, you would say a human body that is sick and toxic to others physically or emotionally or mentally would not be legally defined as a human body. I'm not saying that as a fact. I'm just saying that as a comparison. So a nation is a group of individuals. It does not have anything, by the way, this is the most shocking part, does not have anything to do with location, territory, or land. Nothing. Any group of individuals operating together as a unit, an online men's club, online gaming clan, a home for a family, a work environment, whether it be digital or whether it be in person. These are all legally nations. As long as those nations have good internal tranquility and they operate with morals, and you'll see there's another definition we're going to look at here in a moment that expands this a little bit. And you think to yourself, okay, well, so what's funny is we live in a country where everyone says they're a part of only one nation, the United States. But in fact, you're a part of many, many nations, and the only one of which you are not a part of is the United States. And that's the big joke. You're a part of all sorts of nations, and the United States ain't one of them. And it's the only one you say you are. And you only are part of a nation because you say you are.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah. And
So
you say
one
to
thing,
yourself,
well, real quick, one thing I didn't quite understand was it gave the example about like a bunch of pirates doesn't count, basically. But why not? Because they're immoral and based on whose standard?
I'll show
morals? Okay, is that where we're going? Sorry to jump the gun. Appreciate it.
No problem. So the definition of foreign government. So what makes a nation in the eyes of the federal corporation, the person called United States? Okay. The definition of foreign government includes any government, faction, or body of insurgents within a country with which the United States is at peace. Now, this is the most important part. Irrespective of recognition by the United States. So we look at this and we say, okay, so what's the one thing that we have to have in order to be considered legally and officially a nation or foreign government? The answer to that question is you have to be at peace. Okay. Next question is, what in the hell does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
We're going to go down to the definition of peace. The definition of peace and the definition of nation are almost exactly the same, which is very shocking. So here's peace. Peace is defined as the tranquility enjoyed by a political society, internally by the good order which reigns among its members, and externally by the good understanding it has with all other nations. Applying to the internal regulations of a nation, peace imports, and that definition of imports is referring to like indicates or shows. Peace imports, in a technical sense, not merely a state of repose and security as opposed to one of violence or warfare, but likewise a state of public order and decorum. So the definition of peace and the definition of nation are the same thing. Internal tranquility, external tranquility, and then this one expands that a little bit and adds public order and decorum. So you can take this definition and you plug this definition into this word, And then now you can reread it. The term foreign government includes any government, faction, or body of insurgents within a country with which the United States is at peace. Internal tranquility, external tranquility, morals, morality, decorum, irrespective of recognition by the United States. So you're a part of a whole bunch of nations, and you can even create a nation. And as long as that nation is at peace, as per the definition, it is legally a foreign government.
So what about the United States corporation, nation, state, which really is not at peace? So they're not really a state?
Well,
You know what I mean?
that's where we get into, so at this point, what we start doing, we start moving into, what are the various options besides like a United States citizen, right? And we get into how that works and all this good stuff, right? So the next part is, the term national. This is straight from 8 USC 1101 subsection A23. Here's where we saw naturalization, 23. Here's 21. The term national means a person, which means individual or organization, owing permanent allegiance to a state or nation. Because I like the word nation more personally. Now, this word permanent really trips people up, and it's actually just a landmine. The term permanent means a relationship of continuing or lasting nature, as distinguished from temporary. But a relationship may be permanent, even though it is one that may be dissolved eventually at the instance either of the United States or of the individual in accordance with law. It's literally a joke. It's just put there to like throw you off, right? So you can actually remove the word permanent. It's actually a full-blown oxymoron, and it has absolutely no meaning at all whatsoever. So if we reread it now, if I reread this and change a few of these words out, change out person for the definition and change out state for nation, the term national means an individual or organization owing allegiance to a nation. And now we're starting to see, hence it's called national. It's pretty self-explanatory, right? National, right? So how does that work, right? Now, if we look at the I-9 employment eligibility verification form, which is the one that everyone fills out when they start working a job, you'll see here there's different boxes to choose your different type, right? You have a citizen of the United States, and you have a non-citizen national of the United States. So you ask yourself, oh, okay. So what is a non-citizen national of the United States? A national is an individual or organization that owes allegiance to a state or nation. So now 22 we have here, national of the United States means A, citizen of the United States, or B, a person, meaning an individual or organization, who, though not a citizen of the United States, owes, and we'll remove that, allegiance to the United States. Okay. So what does that mean? That means you can live anywhere in the world, and if you pledge allegiance to the United States, you are a non-citizen national of the United States. Interesting. So how do passports work with that, right? 22 Code of Federal Regulations, section 51.2 is very clear. A passport may only be issued to a U.S. national. U.S. national is right here, a citizen of the United States, or a person who, though not a citizen of the United States, owes permanent allegiance to the United States. Interesting. 22 USC 212 says here, no passport shall be granted or issued to or verified for any other persons than those owing allegiance, whether citizens or not, to the United States. So what does that mean? You live where you live, or the ens legis lives where it lives, or trusts, or estates, or partnerships, or companies, or corporations live. And the way I explain this is through a monopoly board. So you have all these little pieces. These are all your persons. So let's say you as the natural person here. This is the ens legis. This is maybe a trust that you have. And let's say you have 2 corporations. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 persons or pieces on the board, right? So how do you locate those persons in different areas around the board? You simply confer the nationality of the spot that you would like that particular piece to be at after the birth of that piece by any means whatsoever. And it gets even more crazy because there's actually nothing I've ever seen that states that you can't have the persons actually being located in more than one spot. So you can actually confer the nationality of every single spot on any piece or a whole bunch of spots. You can confer every single space on the entire Monopoly board upon one of your pieces after birth by any means whatsoever. I don't know of anything that would stop you from doing that. So there is no dice. It's just you can be as many places as you want, as few places as you want, 3 places, 5 places, 6 places. You can remove one if it doesn't serve you. For each of your individual persons or playing pieces, literally whenever you want, by simply conferring and stating where they are and where they are not located.
So does any of that apply to the flesh and blood me?
Not really, because when they use the term natural persons, which is the closest thing they'll ever say to a living man or woman, there are definitions of natural person which open the door for them possibly meeting artificial persons, which would include trusts, estates, partnerships, companies, and corporations, and all the entities, So it's tricky because if you don't know that and you don't close that back door for the term natural person, you could just use the word man or woman. That's usually what a lot of people do. The term man or woman is the only terms that I can really think of that there really is no back door to those terms at all. The term natural person is the one you're going to see the most in actual litigation. That one does have a bit of a back door. But if you redefine the term natural person in all of your lawsuits and in all of your documents and make sure that it only includes men and women and does not include the possibility of artificial persons, then you can use the term natural person without having too much worry. But if you don't make that specification, then they will assume you mean the dictionary definition, which does have a couple definitions which could include artificial persons.
Okay. And the reason I was asking that is because what I'm thinking about is that all of this crap that you're laying out, which I'm not saying you're laying out crap. I'm saying it's crap, right? And it's this like muddied waters. It sounds like something I don't want to be a part of, but that I already am.
Yeah, I don't. The reason why I went into all this and studied all this and continue to study all this is because I don't personally believe that just negating the system without understanding it is really an option. I think you'll just get steamrolled. You'll get sucked back into it. There's really no way to. The only way to truly get out of it is to learn it so well that it's on like a little leash and you just it's in a gimp suit and like that's the end of the story. You know what I mean? It's like that's the only way you're going to get out of this thing, in my opinion. There are a lot of people running around screaming and hollering and all this, and I just don't see them having any real success in any of this. We have a lot of success, so I think that when you really understand how this all works, it's actually beautiful. We're unlocking infinite money. We have diplomatic immunity. You can buy all the houses you want by just signing your name. Cars. You can do all sorts of really crazy things when you actually learn the system. The system was actually designed to give you infinite prosperity. It's just that through so much convolution and confusion of terms, it's lost all that. And when you clean this up and you operate with this information, then it unlocks that infinite capacity for you to do whatever you want. I have full diplomatic immunity. I am not a taxpayer as per the definition from Title 26 USC 7701 subsection A14. The definition of taxpayer is any person that is subject to any internal revenue tax. A non-citizen national of the United States is not a resident alien or U.S. citizen, so they are by definition not a taxpayer as per the definition. So we do not have tax liability. We do not have a sales tax liability. We do not have a income tax liability. We do not have a state tax liability. We don't have any tax liability at all. Zero.
So have you ever had anybody say, "Oh, well, you're just doing this to get out of paying taxes, or you're just doing this to get rich, or something like that"? What do you say to
No,
that?
I don't really get that. No,
That's good.
yeah, no. I don't really get that. I mean,
Doesn't
sure.
everyone try to get out of paying taxes if they possibly can, right?
Yeah, I know people who love paying taxes. I mean, I'm in California, so it just depends on who you're talking to. It just depends on many different things. But
Right. And you're not trying to get out of something. You just, that's what it says. Like you don't have to. You're not required to.
you if you look at I can show you, now that I've gone through all that, I can show you on taxation. Taxation is really, really simple. I just did another screen share. This will take me like literally 2 minutes to show you guys this. 26 CFR 1.871-1. So we have here, for purposes of the income tax, alien individuals are divided generally into two classes, namely resident aliens and non-resident aliens. Resident alien individuals are, in general, taxable the same as citizens of the United States. That is, a resident alien is taxable on income derived from all sources, including sources outside of the United States. So this means that if you confer the nationality of United States upon yourself or your ens legis, that person is now a resident alien, because now in law, that person is a resident of United States. So at that point, you would be a resident alien. Now it says here, non-resident alien individuals are taxable only on certain income from sources within the United States. So if you are a non-citizen national and you are making income as a defense contractor for the District of Columbia, you would fit this category. A non-resident alien individual would be taxable only on certain income. Let's say you made a bunch of other income too from other sources. The only source that you'd be paying any income tax on would be the one from, and this gets even more fun because the word income is literally impossible to define. So it gets a lot more fun, as you go down this rabbit hole, because Federal Reserve notes are actually just promissory notes. And the definition of money literally says that it does not include notes. So Federal Reserve notes are legally not even money. They're actually considered currency or funds. So this gets a lot more fun as we go down these rabbit holes. But just for the sake of this, without getting into all the financial stuff, because it's like a whole separate presentation, non-resident alien individuals are taxable only on certain income, quote unquote, which is hilarious, from sources within the United States. Now, this is the part where people usually get pretty upset, okay? This is exactly how taxation works. However, non-resident alien individuals may elect to be treated as U.S. residents for purposes of determining their income tax liability. It's the same thing as naturalization. Naturalization, the way that the tax code translates you conferring the nationality of United States upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever, they translate that into an election. You basically volunteered to be treated as though you are a U.S. resident for the purposes of determining your income tax liability. So because you said you lived in United States, you now legally live in United States. And because you said you live in United States, and now because you legally live in United States, you are now a resident alien through what's called an election. Now, what's amazing is that you can actually unelect or revoke this election to be treated as a U.S. resident for the purpose of determining your income tax liability, just as easily as you originally elected to be treated as a U.S. resident for the purpose of determining your income tax liability. And I have a free document on my Nation of the Amnesty Coalition page, which you can just adjust a few of the things on it and send it in. And it's literally just a simple document that revokes the election to be treated as a U.S. resident for the purposes of determining your income tax liability. Now, when you send this in, it will get processed, and they will not ask you any questions. We've got tens of thousands of these things we've sent off. Every single one gets processed. They've never once given anybody a hard time or had any questions or anything. The IRS actually follows the law better than almost any organization I've ever had the pleasure to deal with in my entire life. The IRS operates solely off the codes, and the codes state that you can do this. So when you send this in, they will process it without any fanfare. Once they process this, you move back to you revoke your election to be treated as a U.S. resident for the purpose of determining your income tax liability, and you legally move back to being a non-resident alien. Non-resident alien only has an income tax liability on income, which is a joke, income that's made from within the District of Columbia.
Right. And so let me interject, summarize, and clarify for the audience. So this is really good. So most people are thinking, wait, non-resident, I am a resident, and all this stuff. So the terms, right? So most people, most men and women are actually non-resident aliens, because non-resident meaning they don't physically live in DC.
Well, we don't even know where in DC, United States is located, but yes.
Right.
But yes.
And then alien, because they're alien to the work, like they don't work in DC.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the word alien is a whole nother rabbit hole, but yeah, fine. We'll just stick with the simplicity of it.
Right. So that actually is most men and women. So you're non-resident to the corporation, and you don't work for the corporation.
But if you say you live there, you live there.
If you say, wait, I am a resident, I do live in the United States, you're saying, I do live in the corporation that's in DC. But that's what most people don't think they're saying. That they think they're saying, I'm a human being living in this area that we call America, United States of America. Confusing wording. Yes.
And every time you get a driver's license, every time you sign up for voter registration, every time you get a passport, typically what you're doing on all of those is they ask you if you are a U.S. citizen, and you say yes. And the way that they translate that is, by saying yes, you conferred the nationality of United States upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever, which it literally says in 42 USC 9102 subsection 18, subsection A. Remember the part about U.S. citizen is an individual that's a citizen of the United States by law, by birth, or by naturalization. It's naturalization. That's how everything works. Everything works through naturalization. Everything. You can naturalize in, naturalize out, naturalize into all 50 states all at the same time, naturalize into only 20 states, move out of 13 of them, and now you're only in 5. You can be anywhere you want, as many places as you want. You could be in Zimbabwe, you could be in Antarctica, you could live in the middle of the ocean. You can live in the middle of the ocean by simply conferring the nationality of the middle of the ocean upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever.
Mercy. So what does the corporation of the United States, what do they have to gain by the system and using my ens legis and or like what's going on? What's the end game? Or is it just some kind of a trap? I don't know if I'm asking the question the right way. Maybe you're picking up what I'm laying down.
So let's say, for example, traffic laws. Okay, so traffic laws apply to people that are located in the nation or state called State of California. You don't live in State of California because your physical body is located in the landmass that people normally think of as California. You only live in State of California because you have conferred the nationality of State of California upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. So you didn't live in State of California until you said you lived in State of California. Now, once you live in State of California, there are these particular codes called traffic laws. And what the police are doing is they're driving around and they're issuing securities. They're literally like securities, actually, when you look into what a ticket is, but it's also a complaint. A complaint is another word for lawsuit. So it's a tiny, itty bitty little micro lawsuit that is being filed because you breached the contract. So in order for anyone to get a ticket, there has to be some previous conferring of the nationality of State of California upon the person of which they're writing the complaint on after birth by any means whatsoever, because you can't have breach of contract if there's no contract. So if you go back through and you locate every single time you ever conferred the nationality of State of California upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever, and you write up what's called a novation, which is a change in contract. When you're using Facebook and it says terms and conditions have changed, and if you continue to use the service, you agree to the new terms and conditions. That's called a novation. You can write novations the same way anybody else does. And in that novation is a change in naturalization, nationality. And if you look in the UN Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15, subsection 2 states, no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his nationality, nor denied the right to change his nationality. So it is actually a human rights violation to attempt to prevent anyone from conferring the nationality of a state upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever.
So the short answer is control and money.
The short answer is basically, control, money, the idea of slavery, all sorts of stuff, all sorts of good stuff. Because the thing is that everything that I am showing you on this podcast is how international law actually works. For example, the Sovereign Military Order of Malta is a sovereign nation. You can look it up. It's over 900 years old. They issue their own diplomatic passports. They issue their own license plates. I believe they issue their own driver's licenses, and they actually do not have any official land. You can also look in another way I can prove this to you. I'll do one more screen share on this. Another way that I can prove to you that a nation does not require land is if you go to the Foreign Affairs Manual, 8FAM 505.2. This section here is all about passport endorsements and different types of passports. So you can see here, can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
So we have here D means diplomatic passports, O means official passports, N or NFR, depending on what you're looking at, means no fee regular service passports. And then if you look at the DS11 passport application form, which you're going to laugh because I'm going to show this to you and you're going to say, I never saw that. If you look at the upper right of the form in this section that you are supposed to be filling out, what do we have here? We have a D, an O, an S, and an NFR. And below that, we have END period £. You're supposed to check off which type of passport you want. No one ever fills this out. So when you pick which type of passport you want, for example, if you want a diplomatic passport, then you go down to the END.pound, which stands for endorsement section, and you can choose which endorsements you want. And it tells you what each one is. And then it tells you what types of passport that particular endorsement code can apply to. D means diplomat. So all of these only apply to diplomat. This one you can use for regular. This one, no fee regular. You can use that one for no fee regular. All means it can be used for any type of passport. O means official. Okay. Now, if we go down to endorsement number 11 for the diplomat, we have here the bearer is ambassador at large for title. Now, look at the example they give here. Example is ambassador at large for global women's issues. Same thing with the United Nations. Global women's issues is not a location or territory. Global women's issues does not have roads. So why would global women's issues be able to release license plates? Why would the Sovereign Order of Malta be able to issue license plates? Because nation has nothing to do with location or territory at all whatsoever.
That's crazy. I mean, it's making sense what you're explaining, but it just seems so bewildering almost. The amount of detail.
At some point in time, I'm probably going to sue the Department of State, and I'm just for fun, and I'm probably going to start having my trusts and corporations. I'm going to have passports issued for every single one. And what's funny is when you start looking into the passport, each person can actually have one passport of each of the different types. So I have I think I have 4 trusts. I can get 1 NFR, 1 official, 1 diplomat, and 1 service passport for each individual person. So I could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And then the ens legis, 20. And then natural person, 24. And then I have one corporation, 28. I can have 28 passports.
Right. So to use your Monopoly analogy, which I liked, we're playing this game on their board with their rules and with their fake money. And because most of us unknowingly volunteered to play, right? Is that
you
Yeah, we don't know the
unknowingly
rules.
volunteered? Yeah, because like let's say you have an Amish person, and the Amish person has a child, and the child was never signed anything, no IRS forms, no birth certificate, no nothing. That child wouldn't be under the jurisdiction of the United States. Now, the United States can offer a contract to where the other person can willingly give jurisdiction to the United States, but they at that point it's considered totally voluntary. And when you learn enough about the system, even if you're in the system, it's the same thing. It's still voluntary.
right?
Everything is voluntary.
Right. Wow.
Like,
Well,
for example, license plate registration, the little stickers that you put on your car, that is actually called the Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Program. And part of and you can look that up. It's 34 USC 12611. And the Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Program states that if you want to volunteer, they literally say it's a voluntary program that you can pay into, and there's a label or a sticker that gets affixed to your vehicle. And what it is basically you're supposed to submit documentation to the DMV stating that the vehicle will be operated under certain conditions with certain drivers during certain times of the week. And basically what the Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Program is that you waive all of the rights of the vehicle so that the police officers do not need reasonable, articulable suspicion to pull you over to verify, to make sure that the driver of the motor vehicle is the same in relation to what the scheduling is for the Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Program. And there's another section in the Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Program where it says, how do you exit the Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Program? And the way that you exit is you simply remove the sticker, remove the plate, and then it says that we also recommend that you let us know that you're doing it. It's not even required to let them know that you're exiting the program. So
You just
registration,
take your plate off.
you just literally take your plate off or just take the sticker off, and now you are immediately not in the Motor Vehicle Theft Prevention Program anymore. If you have expired registration or if you have no registration, police need reasonable, articulable suspicion to pull you over, and they actually believe they need RAS to pull you over even with registration tags. That's not true. If you have current registration tags and those tags are on the vehicle, the police and the sheriff's office do not need RAS to pull you over. They need nothing to pull you over.
But if you drove around with no license plate, you'd probably get pulled over, right?
No, I mean, we make all sorts of different types of plates and stuff like that. For example, the DMV is actually a sub corporation within the Department of Transportation. If you look at how the government is structured, the corporation called Department of Transportation is the big boy that goes over trains, planes, automobiles, everything. And then there's a subsection way underneath that called the Department of Motor Vehicles, right? The DOT they actually issue what's called private motor carrier DOT numbers. And those particular DOT numbers are completely free. Does not require any registration, does not require any titling, does not require anything at all whatsoever. You can get one from the DOT website in a matter of probably, for a first timer to go through all the prompts, and it's quite a lot of online documentation and questions, and you have to kind of know what you're looking for, but it takes about maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. And they'll issue you a private motor carrier DOT number, and then you can just make license plates using that private motor carrier DOT number, and you can actually print off your private motor carrier DOT, and that becomes your registration. And they literally will tell you right on the DOT website. For example, a lot of people ask me about insurance. You can go on the DOT website and say, what is the insurance liability for a private motor carrier? And it'll say that private motor carrier, basically liability is on them. So if they want insurance, they can get it. And if they don't have to have it. So it's optional at that point, right? So what we do is we have a series of things that we do. I usually get rid of the driver's license, or we change the contract of the driver's license. We change the signature. We change "Are you a U.S. citizen?" to "No," and then we add a few things to the address line in order to like basically do a novation, or we just get rid of it completely, and we use the passport, and then we get the private motor carrier DOT number. Now, if you get the passport and the private motor carrier DOT number, then you don't need a driver's license, you don't need insurance, and you didn't confer the nationality of the United States or state of California upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever. So when the police write you tickets, then you say, "Oh, thank you very much for this complaint." You say, "This is a complaint for breach of contract, but I never naturalized in the state of California. So there actually hasn't been a breach of contract here." Now, at that point, they have to prove that you've naturalized into state of California, which they can't do. You can't get tickets written on you anymore. It's physically impossible. That doesn't mean you're on the side of the road arguing with the cop. Give me tickets. Yeah, give me like 10, bro. Come on. What's your quota for the day? Give me 30 of them. You take all of them, and then you just write that as a cover letter. You say, there's an assumption that I have naturalized into state of California, or the ens legis is naturalized in the state of California. I want to let you know that has not happened. And if it has happened, I've tried my best to try to, So there's an area in a lawsuit called discovery. You can actually move that traffic court into discovery, and you can say, you guys are under this assumption that I have naturalized into state of California, or the ens legis is naturalized in the state of California. If that's true, please provide the evidence of that naturalization. And they'll say, do you have a driver's license? Because that's a naturalization, right? And if you say yes, then they're going to pull those documents. And if they can find anything in there where you conferred nationality of state of California upon a person after birth by any means whatsoever, they got you. It's all naturalization based. So voter registration also naturalizes you as well.
Oh, right. Because you're volunteering basically to be.
You're conferring the nationality of state of California. You're conferring the nationality of the United States. You're doing both in voter registration.
So do a lot of lawyers and judges, do they know all this stuff and they just know how to work with the system, or are a lot of lawyers and stuff kind of ignorant about this?
You guys know now, after this show, more than almost every lawyer I've ever had the displeasure of meeting. Judges, there are a lot of judges that know some of this information, yes. Lawyers, God, no. Lawyers, I don't even know how they dress themselves, to be honest with you. It's awful. It's like awful. Imagine a mechanic that breaks everything you bring him. That's a lawyer. I'm not kidding. I'm literally not kidding.
Wow. Well, CJ, we're about at an hour. What do you think, Brandon? Gosh dang, this is, fire hose. Drinking from a fire hose doesn't even touch the tip of the iceberg. It's so much. There's so much more too. Your Black's Law Dictionary idea, just reading a couple things a day, that's pretty cool. I know that was just one little piece in this whole thing, but anything to just learn, right? And I can't even fathom the amount of reading that you've probably done. It's probably mind-boggling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I've gone through the some of the Contract Killers course. So maybe you want to talk about that for a second. I've watched I think I'm on 17.
Wow. Okay. So you're like a good chunk of the way through.
But there's 38 or something.
It gets honestly 17 is where it starts to get shorter and it starts to kind of thin out after about 1 through 17 is where a bulk of the hardcore parts of the series is. It starts to kind of chill out some after that, and it starts to taper off, kind of chill out.
Yeah, I encourage people to check that out because it's free, and it's Brandon explaining everything and lots of detail. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, did you've previously done some stuff with this too, though? How did you even find out this information, or how did you even, with your own personal experience, how did you, who introduced you to this?
You mean previously, or how did I find
previously
stuff? Oh gosh, I don't even remember. It's over a decade ago. I really don't remember.
Oh wow, okay.
Just, I mean, I was already like waking up to all kinds of rabbit hole stuff, conspiracy stuff. So, yeah, I was just looking up, researching all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, the course is free. It's a couple of years old. I do a lot of shows like this one. I do shows almost every day, sometimes twice a day. I'm heading out to Austin, Texas on the 19th to do a whole bunch of in-person shows with like Luke Story and Alex Zach and Kyle Kingsbury and a bunch of other people. So, and then I'm going to be doing my first in-person speaking event at confluenceevent.com. Confluence, it's in Bandera, Texas.
Yeah, that looks amazing.
Yeah. So I'll be doing my first in-person speaking event there, April 5th through April 8th. I'm going to be speaking with kind of in tandem with Dr. Andrew Kaufman. He's very knowledgeable on a lot of this information as well. And we're going to be doing a couple of speeches. And then we're also going to be doing like a legal Q&A session with Dr. Kaufman as well at that event.
That's awesome. We I watched your interview with Dr. Kaufman. I don't know if you did more than one. It was the most recent one. If there was more than one, it was fantastic. We've had Dr. Kaufman. We've had Dr. Kaufman on here. I didn't realize he was so knowledgeable in things other than medical.
My Lord. I said on the show, and I stand by it. If he researches all his health stuff, because I really don't know his platform. I've never been into the health side of things too much, either personally or with this work. If he researches things that he teaches on the health side, even a fraction of how much research he put into, because he showed me that document that he's reading off of that he's like not showing. He sent me a copy. I won't share it, obviously. It's mind-bogglingly good. I mean, he is. Wow. I always tell people I would not want to be on the other side of the table against Dr. Kaufman. That's like not the person I'd want to go up against. Bar cards. Oh Lord, give me 15 bar cards. We'll have some fun. I'll get drunk, get naked, and still win. Dr. Kaufman. No, that's not the kind of person. That's not the kind of person you want to have across the table from you. And I'm very, very pleased to be doing some stuff with him and at the Confluence event. And we speak on the phone sometimes, and he's just a amazing individual. Just really impressive the amount of time and effort and research that goes into what he does. Just incredible.
That's fantastic. Got a couple of great minds there together. That would be awesome. Yeah. Well, CJ, what else you got? We're definitely at our time.
Yeah, I think that's good. We should wrap up and just, Brandon, just tell everybody, what the best place to find your stuff.
So I'll give you the PG rated URL because I've already slipped up a couple times on this podcast, attempting to not say horrible words. Right. You can do don'tbeaslave.com, and you can also do brandonjoewilliams.com. But warning, that will take you to someplace completely different, of which contains all sorts of colorful language and aggressive terminology, and it's all fun and games, I assure you. It's all part of the whole thing, and it's designed to get people who are way too uptight to not continue and not look at this information, and to try to keep a purity and a levity with all of this, because people can typically get very, very upset as they learn this. They feel very betrayed, and that betrayal turns into painting their face and loading bullets into their gun and preparing Molotov cocktails. And I try everything I can in my power to prevent that sort of activity from occurring. I do operate at peace. I do want to be considered of my own foreign government. And I have no interest in fanning the flames of hostility. So it's all fun and games, I assure you. It's all sarcasm, I assure you. And it's all part of an attempt to try to keep levity in this information. So there you go.
Very good. Very good. And well, with that, we'll probably sign off. I'll just ask Brandon to hang on just for a second after we sign off.
Awesome.
And
thanks, guys.
really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And this was unbelievable. So we're going to be digging into this further for sure.
Love it.
And it's been great. So I just remember, until next time, keep your powder dry, and we'll see ya. Awesome, man.
You guys like that? Was it good? You guys think you will like it?
One of our best, I'm sure, without a doubt.
Excellent.
And the information was freaking awesome. Your presentation's great.